You know it's desperate when I'm in the bathtub doing a live video. It's bad times when that happens. Also got my IKEA dinosaur towel on. So this afternoon, I had texted a few folks this morning. I have 4 children, 2 in private school, 2 in public school. Have actually had somebody in our small town elementary school now for, this is the 12th year of having an elementary schooler. And I just can't say enough how amazing our educators are where I am. And I would argue probably all over the country, certainly Eastern North Carolina, certainly Chowan County, and most definitely where I live and the schools that my kids have access to. It is mind-blowing to me to read the rhetoric that is being vomited by people that are really in this for money, and politicians and Best and C and Brenda Burke, and even people that were former teachers that now seem like they've, gone to the dark side. Our teachers are not rich, and they're not getting rich. But then we have Catherine Truitt, who is our school superintendent. Before we had Mark Johnson, and we managed to get him out. But somehow we ended up with Catherine Truitt, who I would just like to argue was super friendly to me when she was running. You know what? Don't pretend to be my friend because you want something from me. And if anybody has done that to me, it's Catherine Truitt. So, Catherine Truitt, you know damn well that I have your cell number, and I have texted you 5 different times since you have been elected school superintendent, and you have never even acknowledged my text. Yet when you were running and wanted my help, you were emailing me and calling and texting me and wanting to come take me to lunch and kissing my ASS. God, that pisses me off. There's a lot of things I do and say, but I'm not a liar. And I really do care about our kids. And people might say, well, your kids, are in private school, you don't care. Well, does that mean that people that don't have kids don't care? I don't think that you should pay for my kids to go to private school. Yeah, she used me, but she didn't even use me because I didn't let her use me. So I guess there's that. Yes, I am. So this morning I did something really interesting, or last night, I guess. I texted a handful of teachers that I know, and I asked a really awkward question. So it seems right that I should be awkward in this bathtub, right? Because I have these teachers who are willing to answer my awkward questions. So I'm going to be awkward. And I said, how much do you make? Right? How much do you make a year? Because Catherine Truitt is telling me that the average teacher salary in North Carolina is $58,000. Not one person that I reached out to, all veteran teachers, went to some of our best schools, Carolina State, you name it, Meredith. Nobody makes $58,000. So how is that the average? Well, I'm going to tell you how. It is because once upon a time, we had things like master's pay and longevity pay and pay for experience. And in 2014, somebody made the decision that master's pay wasn't really going to be right? Because just because somebody has a master's, what the devil does that mean? Well, the research shows that it actually helps, right? It does help. I'm happy for my tax dollars. It's not even that vouchers are bad, because I'm sure there are other people from other states watching this, and they're like, my kid has a voucher and it's really helped me. Why do you think the tub is a good idea? because this is my blog. And 7 years ago, I got off my ass and I opened up a Facebook page and I started a blog. And now suddenly everybody wants to micromanage me. And Lord, I love y'all. But I am allowed to make my own decisions. I am not employed by the school system. They can't micromanage me. Thank the good Lord. Not that they would hire me. I get to do whatever I want and say what I want because I am an American. And it is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Why do your kids go to private schools? Why can't they go to public schools? That is the dumbest conversation. Let me ask you a question. If your child got a full scholarship to Harvard and got into UNCW, which would you pick? Harvard or UNCW? Anybody that tells me to put on clothes, I'm now banning you. Ann Harris, you're dead to me. Goodbye. You'll be annihilated. I have on a towel. It's just like I'm at the beach. Pretend I'm at the beach. Pretend I'm, I don't know, all that crap that shows up on my Facebook when nobody's watching. So anyway, don't distract me. $58,000 a year. The teachers that I talk to are bringing in about $2,500 a month after they've paid their health. Now, they don't start out at $58,000 a year, but that's what they're bringing home. So they're making about $120 a day after everything they do. They're not rich. They're not lazy. They are invested. They get up in the morning and leave when I'm getting up to make myself a cup of coffee, and they get home when I'm cleaning up from dinner. That is what is happening with teachers in North Carolina. And if you continue to argue, basically, it's really easy to lie and say the average teacher is making $58,000, or it's easy to push numbers, right? So do you know what that means? Do you know why it's $58,000? Funny and ironically enough, is ironically a word? Ironically enough, the reason the average pay is $58,000 is because there's a few little people up here. What we call these is outliers. But what Catherine Truitt calls these she calls these her foundation of hope. Okay? Foundation of hope. When you have outliers, it makes your average go up, right? So if you look at the year that Michael Jordan graduated from UNC Chapel Hill, you'll be like, whoa. Why is the average salary the year he graduated $395,000? But the next year, it's back to 102. Well, it doesn't mean we had better teachers that year, right? It means we had Michael Jordan, and he was up here kicking everybody's ASS. So that's called an outlier, Catherine Truitt. And the reason I haven't been talking much about education lately is because it's so freaking exhausting. It will make... So this morning I had a nurse here because I have a nurse every month. That's another story. But we watched this Netflix show on Lori Vallow. Lori Vallow killed her children. She claimed they were zombies, killed her ex-husband, killed her new husband's wife, killed her brother, killed everybody. And my blood pressure was like rising. And I was like, well, it should be rising, right? Because this is a horrible story. Lori Vallow's trials this week. Well, then I start reading about North Carolina education. I dig into Caffeinated Rage, which is a really excellent blog. It is written by Stu Egan. We have Justin Parmenter. We have another person. They are educators and they are brilliant and smart. Well, I start reading into their stuff and I really dig deep with Stu Egan's Caffeinated Rage. And I felt guilty that I haven't been writing about this lately. And two, I just felt so angry at the lying and the smoke and mirrors being offered. And I thought, I'm going to sit in this bathtub and I'm going to make more on this video than my son's teacher did today, doing incredible work. Have you ever heard the phrase, to whom much is given, much is expected? So I have fallen into a career that is really amazing. And yeah, maybe it takes being in a bathtub to make some money, but I'm going to. But I also have a master's and PhD. But I can make more money in this bathtub than I can with my master's and PhD and my BK teaching certificate. That should concern you, right? That should concern you. So we have a couple really big things going on. And this is what I was starting to say. Oh, Peggy's done. Goodbye, Peggy. Peggy O'Neill. She's been banned. Goodbye, Peggy. This is so fun. I never do this. Come be a subscriber if you need real videos. It's really fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, sir, Bobby. So we have vouchers in some states, and we have vouchers in North Carolina. North Carolina, according to Duke Law Research Study, has the weakest voucher program in the entire freaking country. That's pretty amazing. So you might say, well, I like vouchers. Well, let's talk about them in North Carolina. So in North Carolina this year, our government handed out 96 million, give or take a few pennies. Yay, Heather. For vouchers. Now, I was looking at 4 schools in North Carolina. There's a sailboat. Looking at 4 schools in North Carolina where they only existed after vouchers showed up, right? Because they didn't have any money, and suddenly North Carolina's like, hey, we're going to give you some free money. When does the government ever give you money when you have to have no experience? Only if you start a school. So in vouchers in North Carolina, what are the rules for the school? I'll give you 3 guesses, but there's only one. Nothing. There are no rules. None. No way, Jose, nuh-uh, not a rule in sight. Do you have to have teachers that are certified if you get vouchers? No. No, sirree, Bobby, you do not. There's a knot on my chest, Kelly, because it's a port. It's not a knot. It's a port. I have an autoimmune disorder. God, y'all get so distracted. Let's see. What's the next thing? Do you have to do testing when you have vouchers? Surely if we're going to give $95 million to all these private schools, we want some testing. What? What's that you say? No, there's no vouchers. There's no testing. Not a CAT test, not a BOG, not a EOG, not a iReady, not a nothing. No vouchers. No licensed teachers. No certified teachers, no testing. The third thing is, oh shit, there's my Dr. Stillthrift was my president of Salem College. This is where I got my undergraduate degree. And I would just like to say I had not good grades, but I redeemed myself later on, Dr. Stillthrift. When I applied to Carolina, I never broke 1,000 on the SAT, but I applied to Carolina and I said to my dad, I haven't heard back from Carolina yet. And my dad said, maybe they thought your application was a joke. But alas, I persevered. So somebody just asked a wonderful question. Are there attendance policies for these schools getting these vouchers? Do you think there are? Do you think there should be? Nope. No, sirree, Bobby. No attendance policies. So you can actually have a private school. You can find Esmeralda, who's out there, dropped out of school at 14, and she wants to be a teacher. You can hire Esmeralda, and Esmeralda doesn't have to have a She doesn't even have to have an undergraduate degree. She doesn't need a criminal background check. No, not North Carolina. The only person that needs a background check is the principal, the head of school. So that's good. So we at least know that our principal is not a total lech ped, right? You don't even have to show up in North Carolina. So we spent $95 million, paid it to private schools, and we don't even know if they went to school. I know you realize like you think you're being punked. This is all legit, factual information. What is the oversight of the vouchers? Sue asked. Well, in North Carolina, it's nothing. Sandy, if you ask me a question again, I'm going to ban you. Do not ask me a question again, Sandy. I'm not answering your questions here. I am talking. So we have no licensure, no attendance requirement. What was the other one? No licensure, no attendance requirement, no background checks. And, I know. What about curriculum? Yes, parents are fingerprinted. I have to have a background check to go out to my son's school to make copies. But if you are a private school, you don't. Now, do I care what private schools do? No, because it's none of my business. I don't care. If you want to send your kid to a private school and they want to dance around a fire and eat marshmallows dipped in bourbon, have at it. But if my tax dollars are going to pay for it, ding, 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 ding. This is how I'm actually a real Republican and everybody else is not. They're all fakers. Because I really do care about your tax dollars. And I don't think it's up to our taxpayers to pay for schools that don't have testing, don't have licensed teachers, don't have attendance requirements, don't have background checks. And the last one, which is really amazing, don't have to have any curriculum. Don't have to do reading, math, science, or history. Adrian Adrian has a degree. So-and-so down the street can set up a school with no high school diploma, and this has happened in North Carolina. There's one school right now that has 42 students getting vouchers, a Christian school in Fayetteville. Do you know how many students they have total? 42. Do you know when their school opened up? After vouchers. So your tax dollars are paying for some Nimrod who just wants to make money, right? I don't care if you lean left, right, or upside down. You should agree with me because I am just talking about what the truth is. And the problem is no one else is telling the truth. But there's a bonus. So I've told you 5. No testing, no curriculum, no attendance, no licensed teachers, no background checks. There's one more. You know what it is? When we hear about school choice, right, we think about parents are going to get to choose. Well, Stu Egan said this, and I think it was really smart. It's not school choice. It's called schools choose. The schools get to choose who they want to be students. So I have 4 children, and I have one child who would never be accepted. So how does that give a parent a choice? I am the parent, and I have no choice. Then come be a subscriber, Linda. Pay me to do research and try to talk about the truth so that we can get the right people in office and help people who are voting really understand what they're voting for. And in North Carolina right now, if you are voting Republican in North Carolina, you are voting to destroy the public school system. And I'm sorry to say it that way. It should not be that way. It shouldn't. It's embarrassing to me that I can't run for something as a Republican. I would have to run as a Democrat because the Republicans have sold their souls to the devil in North Carolina. This is probably my video that'll go viral. Me in a bathtub with greasy hair and a dinosaur towel. I look good, I talk, nobody cares. Maybe your child doesn't just have disabilities. So maybe your child has Down syndrome or autism. Well, they can't come to my school. Maybe your child doesn't want to wear a dress. Maybe she's not trans, but maybe she's like Adrian and called herself Joe when she was little and was a tomboy and only wanted to wear pants and shorts. Well, sorry, Adrian, your child can't come to my school either. Maybe your child is gay. Well, they can't come. Maybe you're Jewish. Maybe your child is mixed race. Do you realize this? I think your minds are going to be blown. $96 million is going to private schools in my state, and the schools can turn you down if you're Black, Jewish, or mixed. Wait, your child's Black? Sorry, we don't have any space for you. But we're going to let your tax dollars pay for the school, even though your child is not actually allowed to come. That is the legitimate truth in North Carolina. And I think what we're going to do when I get my blood pressure back down is I'm just going to start asking representatives, senators, and Republicans and people from North Carolina Best to come on my blog and talk to me about this, because I really want to hear what the explanations are. And they've always got explanations. You know, one of the newest explanations you're going to get is, like, for instance, average pay is $58,000. Well, how come when I ask my kids' teachers, they're not making $58,000? They've been teaching for 25 years. You know? Like, don't say that. The other thing, the rhetoric lately around here is, no, private schools don't have to do anything. And again, we live in a country where people can have a private club, and if they don't want to have a Black member, they don't have to. And as a citizen, I can decide, do I want to join that club or not to? Do I want to support that club? We have a lot of freedom in this country. A lot of freedom. My tax dollars pay for a lot of things I don't want to pay for. Gloria, and I would argue, some people would argue with that side of like, well, that's why people want vouchers, right? Because they don't like their public school and there's a private school they want their child to go to. Tell me how a school in North Carolina that costs $55,000 a year, tell me how a voucher of $4,500 is going to help that family. Less than 10%. So you can afford $50,050.81. But if you didn't get that $4,000, your child couldn't have gone there. And again, I have children in private school. But do I think that you should be paying for it? No, I don't. Particularly in North Carolina when there's no oversight of the voucher program. I don't know, Kim. I'm not an expert on other states because that would require a ton more subscribers, and I could maybe hire an assistant that would help me do research. So I don't know. I do know that one of the last things Stu Egan was talking about was we have this new thing of principal pay. They're real excited to talk about principal pay in Raleigh. I mean, they're paying principals $20,000 more than they were in 2017. This is true. The principal pay has gone up. Now, Do you know how principal pay used to happen? It used to happen if you had, master's degree, longevity pay. So if you got paid basically on how long you had taught. Well, somebody along the way decided that the longer you did something, maybe the lazier you were. So the new thing is now that principals are going to be paid based on how their school does. Now, you might be somebody like my dad. We'll just use him to be mean. I'm not even going to say my husband, because my husband has heard me talk about this enough that my husband is no dumbass either. You might hear somebody say, like Mark Robinson, he's running for governor of North Carolina, and he's going to say crap like this. I think parents should have choice. I think we should pay principals more and respect principals. And if principals turn out good schools, let's pay them more. Now, you might be sitting here thinking, well, that sounds good. I had this principal one time that didn't show up at school. There are lazy principals. They don't show up. They don't call. They don't do anything. Well, I don't want to pay them too much, right? Now, you know what it really means? And I want you to listen to us. You get a $30,000 bonus if your school in North Carolina is high performing for 3 years. That's the law in North Carolina. And North Carolina Best, these people love this. They are experts. Catherine Truitt, our superintendent, who says, I don't know anything about Leandro. That's not really my area. Because Catherine Truitt is a total and doesn't want to upset the leadership of the Republican Party. Catherine Truitt, you really should have answered my text. So anyway, so be it. So you have principals who say, what would you say if you're a principal? Would you want to work in a high poverty district, or would you want to work in a rich district? Well, I'll tell you where I'd want to work. I'd want to work in Richie Rich. I'd want to work in Chapel Hill. I would love to be a principal at Lacey Elementary. Do you know why? Because the data tells us that poverty and test scores are Siamese twins. So when we have low poverty, well, that actually doesn't make sense. They're not Siamese twins. They're polar opposites. So when we have high poverty, we have low test scores, okay? When we have low poverty, we have high test scores. So if you're going to make $30,000 after 3 years of a great test scores, where do you want to teach? Do you want to come and be in Edenton? No. Do you want to be in Raleigh? Yes, sir, Bobby, I want to be in Raleigh. And this is a total aside. This doesn't have to do with money, but this has to do with the fact that Catherine Truitt, our superintendent, or North Carolina Best, or people in the General Assembly, or Mark Robinson, who's running for governor, who told me the problem with charter schools was DPI's fault. Mark Robinson, who wants to be your governor, doesn't understand that DPI doesn't actually oversee charter schools. What you talking about, Willis? This is a problem. Don't vote for someone because they're conservative and black when they have no idea what they're talking about. Vote for someone because they're bright, whether they're white, black, male, female. I don't care. But listen to what someone is saying and ask me questions. I think I'm going to do a weekly Q&A like I do Sunday Mom Old Night. And you will not be chastised other than if you ask me while I'm in the bathtub. Ask me questions about rhetoric you hear from politicians, and let's answer your questions. So you have, what about kids with disabilities? So suddenly, and we've already done this, we've paid teachers that end up with really, high test scores. Do they want kids with disabilities in their class? If I were going to get paid based on test scores, would I want a bunch of Amoses at my school? No. So what you see in Wilmington and you see in Charlotte, or you see principals trying to kick out students with disabilities from their school. I talked to a parent liaison today in a very wealthy county who said, not everybody always listens to me. I talked to a EC person yesterday in another county who said they are concerned about the money. Go to New Hanover County, do a little dig in. Living in Raleigh is more expensive than living in rural cities. Yes, but Beth, you have to understand that's not what matters. The $30,000 is not for if you live in a place that's more expensive. The $30,000, but maybe it is, maybe that is the ultimate goal, but they say that the $30,000 is for if you have high test scores. But maybe that's a way to secretly give money, I hadn't thought about that, to people that live in wealthy areas. You should be asking teachers. Well, I have asked teachers. I sent a bunch of texts last night. I have yet to find one teacher in North Carolina making $58,000 a year. So I can't figure out how Catherine Truitt is telling me that that's the average. When my teachers are telling me I haven't made 1 penny more in the last 10 years. And I'm on year 24. For the last 10 years, I have gotten no raise. Do you know what the average starting salary is for somebody with a bachelor's degree from NC State that's not a teacher? $64,000 a year. Why would anybody want to be a teacher? Why would anybody want to be a teacher? You go to NC State, you can be a teacher and make $6,000 less after 25 years of work, or you can make $6,000 more in your very first year of a job if you pick a different career. Why would anybody want to be a teacher? And then the question is, why would anybody want to be a teacher in poor, rural, eastern North Carolina? And then, where we are, we're not rich. And then we have county commissioners, where I am, one in particular, who says, my superintendent said, we need, I don't know what it was, 500,000 more, 700,000 more in the next county to pay our teachers. So we have to pay for local teachers. We don't get state money for that. How am I supposed to get the money? And you know what? Do you know what I hear from the county commissioners? Well, I don't like the code of conduct at your high school. Okay? Because I don't think y'all are doing the right thing. So what we have people that are controlling our money that aren't allowing us, one, to follow the law. So if you want to put in the rule book that if somebody, let's say somebody kicks a teacher, they should be expelled. Well, that sounds fine. Well, what if it's Amos with a disability that kicks a teacher because he can't communicate and he gets upset? So then the school system is going to kick Amos out of school. Well, then Adrian, Amos's mother, is going to file a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. And what they're going to say is your school broke federal law because it kicked Amos out of school and had a rule that broke federal law. But then you have county commissioners who don't understand federal law, or you have Mark Robinson, who wants to be governor, who doesn't understand that DPI doesn't oversee charter schools. So you have these politicians who are dumb as rocks, and they are just vomiting rhetoric that they don't even understand. And now I have to wash my hair and I have to get over to Hertford County, which is another poor school system, so I can watch my daughter in the track race. And I have to make sure I don't take a bag because all bags are going to be searched, because we live in an area where there is violence and poverty. And I have to hope that nothing happens today. And meanwhile, my state representatives are saying, If you get good test scores, we'll give you $30,000 more. Or Adrian, why don't you choose a private school, even though the school won't accept your son? And even though the teachers aren't licensed, the school's not accredited, they don't have to teach any set curriculum, they don't have to do testing, they don't have to do background checks. And last but not least, they don't have to accept Black people or people with disabilities if they don't feel like it. Or maybe people that are a different religion. Maybe you're Jewish. Sorry, you can't come. North Carolina taxpayers have spent $95 million this year on those schools. And next year, they want to raise it to $178 million. Now, what's interesting before I go is the fact that we have a hard time getting people to take voucher money. And you know why? Because it's limited right now. You have to have a lower income and you have to already be a child in a public school. But Phil Berger wants to change things. He thinks that we're too strict to give vouchers. So what we need to do is we need to take the income limit off. So if Adrian wants to send her son to this $55,000 a year school, we should give her $4,500, right? Yes, we should give that to her. And if Adrian never sent a child to public school, that doesn't matter. Why should you have to go to public school first? These are what your politicians are saying to you. And I'm not a politician, just a mother that's overly educated and frustrated because I love where I live. I love it. And I want to give our community the best that I can. My kids and all the other kids and our teachers. And I want to have teachers because if we have no teachers, we have no schools, and then we have no people here. And then all you people in Raleigh and Charlotte can just sit around and never go anywhere else because there won't be Eastern North Carolina anymore. It'll just be a big expanse of poverty with no education. And then you know what's going to happen? All those people, we're going to have more people in jail, more people on food stamps, and your tax dollars in Raleigh are going to pay for all of those people. So instead of paying people in jails more than teachers, why don't we pay teachers more to keep people out of jail?